Okay, so welcome everyone to the Diversity Roundtable. My name is Ngobile Pamela Klaba, and today we have an incredibly inspiring episode lined up. We are joined by none other than Mr. Veli Ndaba, affectionately also known as the NeuroEngineer. So he is a transformational speaker, he's an author, is a leadership coach who has spent decades helping people harness the power of their minds to create meaningful change. Veli, welcome.
Thank you so much, Pam, for having me. And I'm just so excited to be here and to share some insights on transformation and mindset.
Thank you so much. So before we get into, I've broken down this discussion into different segments so that it's easy to follow and the flow is good as well. So, but before we get into it, so Veli, for those that do not know you are not familiar, know that you are quite active on LinkedIn and you have mentored and coached many leaders and many upcoming leaders as well. But for those that have not heard of Veli Ndaba, briefly, can you tell us who you are, your background, and any other personal information that you are comfortable to share, just to break the ice before we get into the discussion? Over to you.
Thank you so much, Pam, once again. My name is Veli Ndaba. As you have rightly indicated, that I'm the neuroengineer. So I'm just so passionate about human behavior. So basically, I was trained as a mechanical engineer at the beginning of my career. And then I went on because I got to be so much involved in things. And I've always been so passionate about why things work the way they do. And with my engineering background, that actually helped me just to take it a step further. I mean, one of the things that I did was to get involved in things like change, getting involved in understanding the science behind change. And with that, and then I went on and I did all the project management stuff, and I was climbing up the corporate ladder until I was a senior manager. And then I was always asking myself this question: is this really all there is to human nature? Because I've always been fascinated by why people do what they do and those kinds of things. So with my engineering background once again, and I went on, and then in 2011, I left the corporate and I started this journey of entrepreneurship, starting to solve problems the way I thought it was relevant, it was necessary as well to approach, how things and problems are solved. And one thing that has always been running through this is my excitement and my curiosity when it comes to science. Because I mean, when you talk about science, I was hearing about psychology and how people behave, but I wanted to understand the science behind it, which led me into understanding neuroscience, which is the understanding of how the human brain works. And as part of my journey, as part of me being excited, I've authored 5 books. The first book is You Are Born to Win. And the second book is Your Dream is Calling You. And then the third book is Switch On, which is Switch On Your Power. And then the fourth book is Set Your Soul on Fire, because without your soul being on fire, you'll never achieve anything. And the last one, which is the latest, the baby of the family, is called The Neuroscience of Effective Leadership. And this is really my journey. So for me, it's been understanding how human beings do what they do. So there are 3 things that I basically do in my work. The first one is I deliver talks and keynotes, and then the second one, I deliver workshops. And these workshops and keynotes are all based as well on understanding science behind our actions and our behavior and our habits. And then the third thing I do is coaching. So this coaching they're all neuroscience based. So it means I'm not just talking about, yes, believe in yourself, you can do it, say yes to your life. I don't talk about this stuff. At some point, yes, I joined the bandwagon, but I was always asking myself questions. Why is it that people are always complaining about motivational speaking, that it doesn't last? For me, I was interested in understanding the science behind it and what can make it stick. So basically, this is just the long and short of it. So I see myself. I'm a person who translate complex brain science into something that is practical and something applicable for individuals, for leaders, and for organizations. So that's what I do.
Yeah, it's a really, really packed life that you have, and you have achieved so much, and you have changed and inspired so many, Veli. And I know that, towards the end, we'll reserve a bit of time just to learn more about your books and, and what really inspired you to start writing as well. But before we get there, let's just get into then the discussion today, which is titled The Two Paths to Transformation. Desperation and inspiration, really. And you know this because you put out so many posts on LinkedIn, and I follow you daily, religiously reading your inspiring posts. And I came across this post that you wrote that has this title, The Two Paths to Transformation, Desperation and Inspiration. And I got so intrigued because it was such a short post. And I thought, okay, what is the full story behind this post? And let me just ask Veli if we could have this discussion via the diversity roundtable so that we can unpack this topic. So really, let's get into it now in the context of segment one. Let us understand transformation. Let's start with the basics, Mr. Ndaba. In your work, you often talk about the human need to change, right? That is transformation. You say, and this is one of the things that you said in that post that caught my eye. You said, we don't change because we should. We change because we must. Can you unpack that for us in the context of this topic, which is actually your post that you put out on LinkedIn?
Yes, absolutely, Pam. And, change is a human constant. We can say whatever we want to say, but change is something that is always there. And we all feel the urge to evolve, to grow, and to pivot in our lives. But the ignition point for transformation is really neutral. There's always a force driving. And that force usually comes from one of two places. And those places are either the painful push of desperation or is the magnetic pull of inspiration. So that's basically where I'm coming. So these two ignition points are very important to understand, that it's desperation and it's inspiration. But change is one of the core, or growth is one of the core human needs. That's the reason why you'll hear even some people even resigning from their jobs, citing lack of growth. Because deep down within us, or within ourselves, growth is something that is driving us. If you're no longer growing, then it means you're dying because you can't be in between. So that's basically it. So when you look at the issue of inspiration, because when you look at it from the brain perspective, the brain perspective is if you are inspired by an idea, it activates a certain chemical, or it releases a certain chemical that is called dopamine. So you've heard of the dopamine, which is a feel good, kind of, like a neurotransmitter or chemical. But it's not just a feel good. It's not just a chemical that is released when you've achieved something. It's also released when you anticipate something exciting. That's the reason why when we were kids, I'm sure you remember when we had to travel. And then the night before, you'd end up wake up in the early hours of the morning, 2 a.m., and you thought that the bus, maybe the school bus has left you. And they say, no, sleep, too early, you're still okay. Because it was that anticipation, which means that chemical had been released that's now driving you. So this is now inspiration. There's a pull. And now when you talk about the push, the desperation, is when you've lost everything and then you feel like you've got nothing else to lose. But now that is driven by a stress hormone called cortisol. So I'm just giving the science behind it. So we are not just driven by our thoughts, but we're driven by our chemicals that are released in the brain. Once a chemical of motivation is released, you're going to be motivated. That's why it comes and goes, because that chemical is not continuously released into your system. It just released and at that time, and then it subsides, and then you need to do something else. So that's basically it. So understanding the science of that actually helps a lot in terms of managing that situation.
No, thank you. Very insightful indeed. Very, very insightful indeed, Mr. Ndaba. And I'm just really, really curious. And I'd like us to dig deeper into, the two forces that you spoke about, also that you wrote about in this post, which is the two forces are the burning bridge, and then the other one, the magnetic vision, right? So can you unpack this for us? I know that you have touched on it now, but can you just school us today? What is it that you're talking about, the burning bridge and the magnetic vision?
Yes, let me start off with the burning bridge. The
Yeah.
burning bridge is now the path that I'm talking about, that I was referring to as a desperation path. Because now this is where now someone says, I've had it. That's the push that comes from facing the consequences of inaction. Because it's
Yeah.
either you or you don't act. But when you
Yeah.
keep on procrastinating and not acting, you get to a point where you cannot stop acting anymore. You've got to act. You have to do something. This is where now you need to bend the bridge and say,
Mm.
I am moving forward, irrespective of what is happening, because I've got nothing else to lose anymore. So this is where now desperation, or that path of desperation, takes effect. So
Mm.
this is powerful because it forces you to move. It forces movement. And then on the other hand, we have something that we call the magnetic vision. Now, this magnetic vision is the pull of inspiration. You know, something that pulls you? This is now as a result of the clarity that is that clarity of the compelling future. Do you know when there's this something that is really pushing you to do something, and it's not pushing you, but it's pulling you into the future because you are very clear of what you want. It's like when you quit your job and you feel that, you know what, I've had enough now. Or you quit your relationship and you say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So this burning bridge is about being sick and tired of being sick and tired. But this magnetic vision is the clarity and the excitement that pulls you into the future, that draws you forward. So both of these pathways, they actually create this energy, but they feel completely different. Like I said earlier, one is driven by a chemical of excitement and I mean like an enjoyment and anticipation. But the other
Mm-hmm.
one is driven by desperation. It's
Mm-hmm.
driven by stress. It's driven by, this push where we are saying, you know what, whatever comes, I'm gonna do it. So
Mm-hmm.
that
No, it certainly also takes a lot of courage, right? But it also takes one surrounding themselves with the people that are going to help them to actually move towards the direction that they want to take and actually take action. Because most people, even most of us, the best of us also, we do procrastinate on things. And before we know it, time passes, and then we're like, oh, how I wish. But I always say that it is never too late. For as long as you are convinced of your vision and you are compelled to act, act, even no matter how incomplete it may look. But just take the first step, because the journey of 1,000 steps begin with that one step. So thank you so much, Mr. Ndaba, really for enlightening us. So let's really now get into the practical application, of what you have shared with us, for our listeners, for the people that have joined us in the call, and for those that will listen to this recording on our YouTube channel, who may, in wherever they may be in their lives right now, they may feel stuck. And, so how do they know which path to activate? Should they wait for desperation, or should they try to activate inspiration? Can you just guide? Because we get stuck and sometimes we don't know what we don't know, right? And so can you talk to someone then who may be feeling stuck, and what is it that they need to do in the context of everything that you have covered?
absolutely. And one thing before I even answer that question is just to say something, I mean, just to add to something that you indicated earlier, Pam,
Mm.
that change is not something that is easy. Why? Because the brain doesn't like change. The brain is not in a business of changing things, but it's in a business of keeping things as they are. So biologically speaking, when you feel like you are scared or you resist change, the brain is just doing its job. You just need to understand it how. That's where, therefore, I come in to explain how the human brain works. But when it comes to this issue of burning the bridge, for an example, as one path. Now, I want the listeners to imagine this situation or to paint these pictures or these scenarios in their minds. Let's say, for an example, you're realizing that your health, and your finances and your career, and your career are in jeopardy, and you are sort of like they've basically hit the rock bottom, and you can no longer ignore the cost of doing nothing. You've got to act now, because like there's nothing else that can help but action. So when you're doing that, this is when now you are bending the bridge to say, I've lost enough money already. I always have nothing. I'm almost having nothing. And my finances and my health and my career, they're in jeopardy. And I've actually hit the rock bottom. Now I have to. Now that is an example of bending the bridge. When you feel that, like I said earlier, you are sick and tired of being sick and tired. You've lost it all almost, and now you've got nothing else more to lose. You've got to act. But when you talk about magnetic vision, we are talking about a situation where someone maybe sees something that's very clear, that compelling vision for something about your life that you really want to do, or your organization that you're working in. And that vision pulls you forward with some energy and focus. You're very clear in your head of what you want to do. And that clarity and that picture that you have, it actually excites you. It's more like you're a child that is just lost in this candy store. You don't know what to do with yourself. You are just so excited. Now, that is the magnetic vision that is pulling you into the future. So those are the two examples that I can actually cite at the moment.
So in your article, Mr. Ndaba, the one that we're basing this discussion on, I think there was also a phrase, or maybe I might be rephrasing it, but something that goes along the lines, coding your energy into your destiny.
Yes.
What is that?
So when you code your energy into your destiny, because there's something that needs to happen in life. There are so many things that the brain is focusing on, but is limited in terms of energy and in terms of focus. So it means you are clear of that thing that you really want to do and you want to achieve. You are very clear of this picture and this dream and this goal that you want to achieve. What that means is that you are aligning all your energies and your focus onto that thing. That's when it comes to saying no, 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 no. Whenever people say, let's do this, no, man, why don't you do this? You no longer have time for too many friends. You are now focusing on this one thing. Like one of the examples was for me getting into neuroscience and getting into becoming an author, for an example. I had to stop other things that were not adding value towards this goal that I wanted to achieve. So I had to align and to make sure that all my energies are aligned with this kind of stuff that I was talking about. So this is something that's very important, because what you're doing at this level, you are controlling the signal. And this is something and now this becomes a scream of desperation that drives you, because you are saying, I've got to do this. Or you've got this clarity of vision that pulls you forward. So, but these ignition points, they drive into that. So it's all about you focusing your energies and focusing all your focus and attention to that particular thing that you want to do. Because we know that the brain and our energies are very limited. We cannot be able to achieve everything we want at once, but we need to choose to prioritize what we want to achieve.
Yeah. So you are so spot on, and thank you so much for that insight, Mr. Ndaba. And I think let me just also prompt this further, because this it not only applies on a personal level, right? So I'm assuming that it also applies at an organizational level, where leaders can use either the push or pull analogy to drive change within teams. So how does this look like, the push and the pull, or the desperation and the vision? How does this look like in an organizational setting now?
Absolutely, you spot on there, Pam, because these principles are quite universal. They are not only limited to an individual. they are quite universal. So whether you are leading yourself or you're leading a team or an entire organization, understanding these two parts is something that is very critical because you are able to create a momentum in a way that is sustainable and that aligns with your purpose. And maybe just one thing that I can is that when you are acting from desperation, a scream of desperation can help you to get started, but it's not sustainable. But it's only when you are excited by an idea and you have this goal that excites you, that drives you, that it becomes sustainable. And when you start from a place of desperation, it requires so much energy. I'm talking about brain energy that it can easily and quickly sort of like exhaust you. You use it to get started, but also you need to link it up with the excitement. Get a goal to get that will excite you to move forward. This is where we sustain change. The reason why most of these changes actually fail is because we rely a lot on this path of desperation, which exhausts us and we can no longer be able to sustain it. And you find that you've started something and you no longer want to do it because you are just so exhausted. So they see it as a relay. There's someone who starts the race, and then he hands over to the one that can actually finish or continue and finish the race. So desperation can get you started, can start the race, while this one of a magnetic pull can actually sustain you to move forward until completion. So that's how maybe listeners and viewers can actually can take it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Ndaba. This is like really food for thought, because I know that you've also worked with many, many, many organizations. Can you hear me? Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
I can
Ndaba.
hear you now.
Okay, wonderful. Sorry. So I know that you have worked with many, many organizations because I think I also, first got to know you. I think it was somewhere around, I can't remember whether it was 2014 or 2013, but somewhere around there. And I've really watched your journey and I've really grown up really watching and reading some of your books as well, so in Zulu, but impilo yinde, it translated in English, we say that life is a journey. Yeah. So can you share with us maybe an example of an organization? You don't have to mention the organization's name, of course, where you have seen this push and pull analogy play out, and how did that look like in reality?
Maybe one example I can use is that when I get engaged in change initiatives with organizations, you find that and leaders come and say, yeah, we have to change this, we have to change this. And when you keep on pushing people to change something without really understanding, first of all, why is the change necessary? And number two, what will it actually look like at the end? What is this beautiful end that we are creating with this change? And what are the benefits of it? That in a team creates a situation of resistance because you rely a lot on this desperation, on this starting force or this power, this path that is not sustainable. That's why people are avoiding it. They are just so exhausted and actually they dread change because there's nothing exciting about it. They just have to do it. So that's the reason why statistically, research has indicated that about 70% of change initiatives fail. And this is something that is very why because they lack that excitement. To create and tell stories. That's why whenever we talk about these things, the power of storytelling, that's one of the skills that leaders need to have because if you are able to tell stories about the journey that the team and the organization is embarking on, and you are able to craft it so well that at the end, people do not wait to go, to go on that path. so that they can enjoy that. It's like I remember when I was still, a young boy at school, the teacher will explain to us that, guys, we're going to be moving here from Joburg, we're going to go to Durban. When we go to Durban, or when we get to Durban, we're going to be going to Shaga Marines, we're going to be doing that. And then, they will be creating these stories and we'll be looking so forward to it. And then we'll even go and do some small jobs at home so that we could get some money that we could pay and go on that vacation and go on that journey. So I think in the workplace is exactly the same thing. Without you as a leader being able to tell the story that will excite the team, you will not be able to sustain the change. And because change comes with so much stress, it's by nature of it like that. So those are the changes and experiences that I've had with organizations. So hence, I get to help leaders to understand how to tell stories of the journeys that the organizations are going on or going through.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. Because, change, if there's one thing that's constant in life, and we all know this, it is indeed change. So now let's talk to Veli, the author, right? And talk to us about, your books, but maybe also talk to us about what prompted you to start writing, and then go into what was your first book, who were some of your mentors in your journey? Because now I also want to understand your journey and also just enlighten our audience and the people that have joined us here in the call, who Veli Ndaba, the author, is, who were his mentors, and then the inspiration behind writing your books.
Thank you very much, Pam. Obviously, it becomes there to say, when you see me, I'm just the combination of so many different things and different people that have contributed in my journey. And to start off with that, when I left corporate, I joined this wonderful organization called Toastmasters International. So Toastmasters International helps people face their fears when it comes to public speaking. So I wanted to communicate better and to communicate well so that people could be able to follow my story and follow the message that I'm trying to bring across. And while I was on that journey, I was given this opportunity to become the president, of the organization. And as the president, my role was to become someone who is inspirational, someone who is able to, to get people to join the organization and to make a difference in their lives. And in the process of that, I had to write an article in a local newspaper, just in terms of what was my plan and what was my strategy to take, this organization forward. And while I met this person, I'll mention a name. Her name was Karina van der Walt, who is the chief editor of a local newspaper. And I was just talking with her about, what my plans were at the time. She said to me, Veli, at the end of it, she said to me, when is your first book coming out? I said, which book? And what book are you talking about? She said to me, there's an author in you. The things that you were dropping while we were talking, there were so many pearls of wisdom. And I felt so bad because I thought to myself that the world should listen to this. And I thought to myself, wow. I said to myself as an author, I'm not good. I mean, being an author is it's something for special people. She said to me, but you are that special person too. You need to have this book. And that was now in 2012. And in 2014, I started writing this book. And now, and I said to myself when I wrote this book, I said in 2015, on the 22nd of February, which was going to be my birthday, I'm going to be launching this book. And I started inviting people on a book launch. And people were saying, but you have never written a book. And I was committing myself because one of my mentors, Les Brown, had taught me that the best way to commit to your goals is to start telling people about it and start telling them about when is this thing going to happen. And that's when then I started inviting people, giving them the date because I couldn't postpone my birthday. The 22nd of Feb is the 22nd of Feb. And that put so much pressure on me. At some point, I thought, oh my goodness, I wish I can cancel this. But unfortunately, I couldn't. I had to commit to my commitments. And that's what therefore led to that book being launched on the 22nd of February, which was very special to me, and which he endorsed as well as my mentor. So that was the launch of the first book, You Are Born to Win, because I realized that we can do it. We sometimes need people that will talk sense to us. I remember my mentor, Les Brown, saying to me at some point, he said, we need to listen to other people believe in us until our own belief system starts to kick in. And that became so true that at times we talk ourselves out of our dreams. But we need people, we need to have a community, we need to have a tribe that will talk to us and see something that we are blinded to, that we cannot see by ourselves. So that's something that's very important about having a coach and having a mentor and having a tribe that will be able to be able to keep on telling you that you can do it and you need to believe in yourself. Just someone saying to you, I'm behind you. I mean, that's something very special to say, I am behind you. And that's number one. Then the second book came the following year, which is entitled Your Dream is Calling. So the first one is You Are Born to Win. The second one, I said to myself, when you do something once, it's like you are just a one-hit wonder. It just happened by mistake. I said, no, I'm sure I can do it again. And along the way, I had some challenges, and I thought, no, but I mean, can I really do it? But the first one reminded me that it's possible for me to do it. That's what led me to complete that second book, and it was launched, became a success. And then now I said to myself, let me go for it again, because people, you know what happened there, Pam? When they finished the first book, they said to me, Veli, I'm finished with the first book. Now I'm waiting. When is the second one coming? And I thought to myself, there was pressure. And the second,
Pressure.
yes, and the second book came up again. And so when it came out, people finished it. I mean, they read it and completed the book. And now they said, I've read it twice. Others, they said, I've read it thrice already. So now, what's the next one? That's what led to the third book now called Switch On, Your Personal Power. And then the third book as well, there was that pressure. And then that led to the fourth book called Set Your Soul on Fire. And then now the book that is out is The Neuroscience of Effective Leadership. So what is special about this latest book now is that it explains the science behind leadership. And when I talk about leadership, I'm talking about first self-leadership and leading others. Because in the world, when you talk about leadership, immediately people default to thinking that you are leading, I mean, they're talking about you leading other people. The thing is, leadership has got to do a lot with influence. And influence comes from how you carry yourself out and how you do things. What kind of an example are you when people look at you? So that's what makes great leaders great, is because they become what they talk about. They become examples of their messages. So most leaders who are bad is because there's this incongruent between what they say and what they do. So that's why self-leadership is quite key, so that people can follow you and be able to become an example that they see you as. And then your word carries so much weight. So that's been my journey when it comes to Veli Ndaba, the author.
Yeah, so but Mr. Ndaba, you said you've written 5 books. You only spoke about 3, or was I not listening attentively?
I'm sure these things do happen when we are so excited. I mean, we end up skipping things. That's the brain for you. It happens like that. You mentioned it all fun. Okay. So the first one is You Are Born to Win.
Yeah.
And then the second one is Your Dream is Calling You.
Yeah.
And then the third one is Switch On, which is switching on your power.
Yes.
And then the fourth one is Set Your Soul on Fire. And then the fifth one, which is the last one, is The Neuroscience of Effective Leadership.
Yeah.
Which explains, yes, it talks a lot about human behavior, the science behind human behavior, and why we can be able to do more. that we are not stuck as human beings. And when you hear people saying, but this is who I am, just take me as I am, that's just a lazy way of thinking. So I am reversing that to say it's possible for all of us to change through this phenomenon in neuroscience called neuroplasticity, which means that the brain can keep on changing in terms of its structure and in terms of its function based on how you use it. So there's nothing, the human brain can keep on changing until you die. So there's no excuse there to say, this is who I am. So this is the message that I share with the world to say, the human brain is such a magnificent tool that we have, but which is least understood. So neuroscience is here to help us understand that. So as a neuroengineer, which is the combination of both neuroscience and engineering, this is my assignment to the world. And this is my responsibility to help leaders and to help teams understand the power that is hidden within themselves. So this thing called the brain, there's no yellow brain, there's no brown brain, there's no white brain. The brain is the same. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. The only thing that makes the difference in our thinking and in our approaches is the programming based on the environment in which you were born. So if you change your environment, the brain has got the feature to adapt to a new environment. So sometimes you find that we were raised by parents who didn't know better, but now you know better. So the brain has got this functionality to change. And as a coach in terms of that, and in my workshop, that's what I had to do, Pam, to unpack that so that people can understand how do you go about changing how the brain works.
Sure. And certainly you are spot on. When we know better, we do better, definitely. So how do people get hold of your books, Mr. Ndaba? Where can people buy your books? Can you just give us more information in that regard?
Thank you very much once again, Pam. And that's very important. And when you go to velindaba.com, just go on social media. You can go to LinkedIn and then look for Veli Ndaba, the neuroengineer. You go to Facebook, is the same thing. You go to Instagram. You go even to TikTok. We are there. I mean, the footprint is quite wide and and very exciting. So people can be able to do that. So to get the books, if they go to velindaba.com, I mean, there's way in terms of services they can be able to get the book. So that's one way of doing it. And then the second one, they can reach out to us on inquiries@velindaba.com, I mean, via our website, so that they can be able to get either a physical copy, and they can also be able to get, the e-version, of the book. So those versions are in there as well. They appear on our website.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ndaba. I know that there are a few people that have joined us in the call today, and I'll just like to check in with any of them if they've got questions for Veli. If you do, please do unmute yourself, introduce yourself by name, and then just ask the question and let's engage and keep it lighthearted. So let me just check in if there are any questions at this point. Okay, so it doesn't seem like we have questions. So, Mr. Ndaba, I think your LinkedIn is quite intriguing, right? And you've got quite a huge following on LinkedIn, and I'm sure you do have also in other platforms, right? So, and you post almost on a daily basis, right? So, can you just talk to us about the engagement that you get in LinkedIn in the context of the work that you do, and also in the coaching journey and some of the leaders that you have coached? What are some of the insights and the nuggets of wisdom that you can share with us today in terms of how people generally show up, and what are some of the interesting discussions that you've had with people that you may have come across on LinkedIn in the context of personal and professional development?
That's a great question, and thank you so much, Pam, for asking that question. And I think the first thing that I need to say is that or one thing that I've come across, something that's very exciting, is that people think that they are stuck where they are. So it means how I'm known to be doing things. Like, for an example, you hear a leader or a manager say, "This is how I manage people." I mean, for me, this is the way that this is my secret weapon, or this is my recipe,
Yeah.
for leading. And one thing that I do when I coach them is saying, people are very unique. There are no two people who are exactly the same, even identical twins. So, which means that when you deal with people, I mean, as individuals, you need to see them as individuals. Don't talk to an individual as if you are just talking to an entire team, because people are uniquely different. So, leadership, I mean, I share this very important message that I got. I mean, like it says, if serving is below you as a leader, leadership is beyond you. And I found that to be very exciting, because why? Leadership is about people. And when you talk about management, when you go to school, we are mostly taught about how to manage businesses, how to make businesses successful. But
Yeah.
those things, they come from KPIs. How to measure profit, how to measure quality things, and how do you measure if we've reached that target over there. Those things are binary by nature. It's either correct or wrong. It's either right or wrong. It's either blue or yellow. So there's nothing in between. But when it comes to humans, when it comes to people, when it comes to employees, it's about you understanding what drives them. Because what drives me as Veli Ndaba is different from what drives you as Mobile, for an example. So to become an effective leader, it's about having and taking that interest in us and sit with us individually to find out exactly what drives us, or what drives me at an individual level. That's how I've actually helped leaders to connect. Even in one of my workshops, I talk about, there's one module and one intervention I talk about called the Neuro Connection Kit for Leaders. So when you talk about the Neuro Connection Kit for Leaders, and I liken connection as as sort of like fishing. When you go fishing, you don't just carry one sort of bait, one bait to catch any fish. Each bait attracts a certain kind of fish. So it means you need to know, what kind of fish do I want to attract by the bait that I'm carrying. So people lose that. They think, oh, I have the bait. This is the bait that I have. And you wonder why you are not able to attract different kinds of fishes. So that's something that's very important to understand. And also number two is to understand that as human beings, the brain is designed to avoid pain and to avoid loss and to prioritize safety. So if I look at you and I talk with you and I feel threatened by you, I lose becoming creative, because that energy that I'm supposed to use to become creative and innovative, now I use it to check you out so that you don't hurt me. So that's something that's why, therefore, I always say that safety precedes connection. I cannot connect with you if I feel unsafe around you. So as a leader, your job is to create an environment where people feel safe, because when you feel safe, you look forward to go to work. When you feel safe, you become your creative self. You are able to bring to the fore all the ideas that can help an organization to grow. This is where now we talk about psychological safety. And I know many people just talk about psychological safety from an academic, realm. But when I talk about psychological safety, it's very practical, because it talks about how the brain is designed. It prioritizes, let's say, three things in that order. The first one is safety. The second one is energy saving. So the brain has to save energy, because it doesn't have all the capacity to solve all the problems. So you need to give it a guidance. That's why when, as a leader or as an organization, when you talk about change, you don't talk about how the journey is going to look like. People are focusing on losing their jobs. They're not going to be focusing on being creative, because they don't know where we go. So as a leader, communication is something that's very important. So that's one thing. That's one of the things that I've actually picked up with with my engagements that I've had. And the other one is about achieving your dreams. That when you want to achieve your dreams, you've got to be very specific. You've got to understand, what does success mean to you? Because that's where most people are lost. You are using a wrong yardstick to measure success. That's one of the reasons why you are not successful. So for me, success starts from running your own race at your own pace. Because when you do that, I'm not competing with anyone. I am running my own race and I'm feeling comfortable where I am. I've not settled, but I understand that I've got my path and I've got my pace. You may be running faster than me. It's okay for you because you may appear to be ahead of me when in fact, in your own race, you are behind. I may appear a bit slow, but in my race, I'm ahead. So it's about the kind of race that you want to achieve. So what does success mean to you? And I think the very first thing that you need to do as an individual is to clarify that. What is the definition of success to you? Because if you fail to accept and to define that, you're gonna go out there in the world and chase what other people call success, which is not success at all. Because you're not gonna feel at peace with yourself. And I think one thing that made me successful as a person was to win myself from the race that other people define as success. To be able to define my own success in my own terms. Because right now, wherever I travel in the world, I know that I'm successful. People may use their own definitions of success, which does not actually make sense to me. And that's why I have a peace of mind. And that's why, as well, my psychological well being is well under check. Because I'm not chasing things that are beyond me. I'm not chasing things that are not within the scope of what I am supposed to be doing. So that's what I can share. That's what I can share. Even in my coaching sessions, the first thing that we need to talk about is, where are you going? And why do you want to go there? Because sometimes, even myself, having done engineering, is because at first I was told that I was a smart kid, in high school in math and science. And then what I had to do, I had to do engineering because it paid a lot of money. It was good for me. It came with prestige. But once I got involved in it, I realized that I needed to do something else. And that's one of the reasons why I changed and I moved from engineering to now doing the neuroscience of human behavior, doing human evolution, doing human nature, doing in psychology. Because people ask me, but why would you leave engineering? And one thing that's important here is that you don't want to be a prisoner of your paper qualification.
Yeah.
I know so many people who are accountants, who are engineers, who are, they say they are marketers, but at heart, they are not those things. So that's one of the sources of stress that leads to depression, is that you are saying, I am this because you passed that at school. You have a degree or a diploma in that, but that's not you, because life is not showing you to be that. So you've got to listen to yourself. You've got to take stock of yourself and say, what is it that I'm naturally good at? And I realized for me, I had to be honest with me. I said, I'm not going to be a top tier engineer. That's for sure. There are top tier engineers. I don't even rank in the top 10, top 20. I don't see myself ranking in the top 30 even. And I said, so what is it that I need to do? What is my assignment in life? That's when then I started searching myself. And you can't search yourself by sitting on a couch. You've got to experiment things, do different things. That's when you find yourself and say, wow, I'm happy here. I just love it most when I do this. And that's where I am right now. I was born for this. And I think for me, oh man, I don't know. Thanking God is something that I never stopped doing because I found me. But I did not find myself sitting on a couch. I did not find myself by just reading books. I experimented different things. As you may be aware, I've done different things since 2011 when I left corporate to where I am now. I was trying different things and until I found me. So life is about self-discovery. Live, experiment things, and then you'll find yourself.
Walk your own journey and be clear what defines success for you. Oh man, that is just really, really, really profound because the spirit of comparison is real and it plays on people's psychology, it plays, and people even abandon their dreams and the good things that they would have accomplished, and they go and do something else because they see other people doing it and they think it's the thing to be seen at, and that they will be relevant. And they fail dismally because they were not meant for that. They were not born for that. It's not in line with their vision. It's not in line with their purpose. So thank you for actually reinforcing this on us, Mr. Ndaba, to say, define what success looks like for you and then walk that journey. Take the first step and keep going. And when you get to a space, your happy space, you will know that you are doing what you were born to do. Am I correct?
Absolutely, and just two or three things that I can leave with the audience as well
Yeah.
is having defined what success means to you. That's number one. So be honest with yourself, and you don't only have one thing that you can do. You've got a number of things that you can do, several things you can do, but there's one that touches you the most. And then the second thing that you can do or that you need to do is to find yourself a coach and to find yourself a mentor. Because without someone who is able to see and look at your blind spots, you will always find yourself scoring on goals. And you'll find yourself not doing the things that you're supposed to do. And I think for me, having had the coaches and mentors like the Les Browns, I've had team stories, I've got global coaches even to this date. Why is that? It's because I know that I'm limited in terms of how I see things. And one thing that I realized was that if you look at the top and successful people in the world, people who are doing well, they all have coaches. I mean, you can look at the athletes even themselves. I mean, you look at Muhammad Ali. Where would he have been without Angelo Dundee? You look at Michael Jordan. If there was no Phil Jackson, there was going to be a problem. If you look at Nelson Mandela, if there was no Oliver Tambo and there was no Walter Sisulu, it was going to be a challenge. So you need to have people who have your interest at heart, but people who are there to push you, people that will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Because your friends tend to tell you what you want to hear because they want to maintain the relationship. But when you talk to people who are bigger and better than you, then you are able to listen to them with some sort of respect and humility, and then you are able to move forward and implement the things. And you've got someone who's going to hold you to account. And it means you have an accountability partner. So in your life, when you set goals, who holds you accountable to those goals, whether you achieve them or not? And
Mm.
until you have someone who's going to hold you accountable and say, but you said you're going to, how far are you? What help do you need? What about this? Have you read that book? Have you gotten that? Have you done that? Have you attended that class? Until you have someone that's going to push you and in a way that will help you, you will never be successful because you will always make excuses for yourself. And I think for me, that's something that got me going, that got me to realize that, wow. And even now, sometimes I've done so many great things, and I meet my coach, and sometimes because I've got different coaches, and this one challenges me, and I said to myself, oh my goodness. I spoke to a guy, in Amsterdam, 2 days ago, and he was saying to me, but Veli, what about this? Have you thought of that? And I said to myself, how come did I not think of this? How come
Mm.
I was like thinking myself, saying, oh my goodness, come on now. What? And without having coaches, I must emphasize on this thing, Pam. Without having coaches, you are sabotaging yourself. You need to have a
Mm.
coach. Reading books is not enough. You need
Yep.
someone who is out there, who is in touch with what's going on. And that person is going to challenge you and also hold you accountable because we tend to get ourselves, we tend to get ourselves out of the hook, you know, and we cannot be able to do that. You cannot excuse yourself from your dreams. You need to have
Mm.
someone who is going to hold you down and say, let's do this. If you need some help, I'm here to support you. But Keep your commitments to your commitments. Because until you keep them to your commitments, you will never achieve anything. So that's my story around that. So you need to have a clearly defined definition of what success means to you. Have yourself a coach, and then surround yourself with that tribe that is willing, that is hungry, that is willing to go and achieve great things. Because together with your tribe, then you're gonna go places. Don't surround yourself with people who are mourners and complainers. I don't like people like that around me. I want people who are always trying to find out how best can we do it. Not people who always, sort of get into pity parties and things like that. I don't want to get into pity parties. I want us to find solutions. So that's basically those three things that I can say. Read books. It's okay to read books, but get someone, because a book cannot hold you accountable. How many books? You can read 52 books a week, like a year, a book a week. But you ask those people who have read 52 books a year, what have you applied? What have you learned from those books? Because learning something and implementing something are two different things. I'd rather read one book a year and make use of it. And that's what will change my life.
Yeah. So we all need accountability partners, right? Because you get to a point in life where you ask yourself critical questions. How did I get here? Why am I here? What does this mean for me? And then the most critical question is, where to now? Or now what? Right? So when you're starting yourself, now what? Then you know that it's time for you to act.
Absolutely.
Because the cost of doing nothing is very great. It's destructive, in fact.
It is, Pam, and over and above that, when it gets to that point to say where to now, without having people that are going to be vulnerable to, and people that you know that you trust them with your life, then you're going to have a problem, because that's where people end up numbing themselves with these intoxicating substances, because they feel like now they've reached the end of it. Now that leads you to depression, because you are not enough by yourself. You need to have some people that will be able to open up and say, man, I need help. The more people you can be able to trust and say you need help, the better for you, because that has to do as well with your positive psychological well-being. You're going to be well in your mind when you know that when I need help, I've got people to talk to. But when you are forever suppressing things, your brain is forever releasing these stress chemicals or stress hormones that are taking something away from you. And that's why most people are depressed, and you end up numbing yourself by taking these intoxicating substances, which are further pushing you down instead of pulling you up. So you don't want to wait until your feet hit the ground. You don't want to wait until you hit that state of desperation, but you want to talk to those people that will resuscitate and reignite that magnetic spark, that will pull you into the future. And all that is in those people that you hold dear around you. And that's what we call your tribe. Have your tribe. Not everyone can be your tribe. There are some people who live a lie, but you don't want to do that. You want to be honest with yourself. If you don't have something, you don't have it. You just tell yourself, I don't have it. But how can I get it? And that's something that's very important that we can do.
Mr. Ndaba, let us close. It is now 3:30. We've been speaking for an hour, but we have learned so much. And thank you so much for making time for this, much needed and deeply personal conversation as well. And so we will post it on our YouTube channel, our Buzzing YouTube channel. We never get less than 1,000 views on any of the episodes that we put out on our YouTube channel. Like I said, we'll be promoting it into other African countries, in Southern Africa, in East and West Africa, as well as Central Africa. So thank you so much for this. So in closing then, let me just check if there are no questions from people that have joined us on the call. Going once, going twice. Okay, so if there are no questions, So, Mr. Ndaba, I think my key takeaway is that do not wait for rock bottom to find your feet. We need to decide consciously, will we let desperation push us, or will we let the vision pull us, right? So both paths are powerful, but the choice is yours. Take responsibility for your energy, take responsibility for your focus, and then as well as your transformation, because life is a journey. So it's very important that as we navigate life with its challenges and its joys and its wins and its triumphs, that we also transform as well, both on a personal and on a professional level. Mr. Ndaba, thank you so much for your time, and it is a wrap and is really much appreciated.
Yes, thank you very much, Pam. And just one thing to say, your mindset is a powerful thing, and the audience need to get that. Your mindset is the lens above all other lenses in life. So if your mindset, that lens is dirty, it will affect everything else in your life. So one of the important things is to keep on cleaning your lens, which is your mindset. Keep on having those people that will challenge you to think differently, because what worked yesterday is not guaranteed that it's going to work today. Is definitely not going to work tomorrow. So as you are doing all of these things, keep on adjusting your mindset, because there's something that are called perspective stress. You may be stressing over something right now, not because it's something that is worth, taking your energy, but you are stressing because your perspective is wrong. It's because your mindset is not in the right place. So you need to have someone that's going to help you clean this lens, your mindset, so that your life will always make sense. And when you look at things differently, and then you start to have a different meaning to it. Don't get stuck and fixated in your own way of looking at things, because life is full of possibilities. And right now, I think this is something that most people are suffering from. They are not willing to change their mindset. You cannot change things, but your mindset is there, it's free for you to change. So I'll close by those words.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ndaba. Let's call it a wrap. I will say no more. When they say no more, I've reached that point, because all that needed to be said has been said already. Mr. Ndaba, thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate you. So let me stop recording.